The offensives by Islamic State militants in Syria and Iraq have displaced millions of people. Aside from physical pain and loss, psychiatrists say as many as half the people on the run from the militants may be suffering psychological effects from their ordeal.
VOA correspondent Scott Bobb recently traveled to camps for the displaced in northern Iraq and Turkey to chronicle the suffering of the refugees. Here's what he told me about what he saw.
Suruc camp in southeastern Turkey. It's Turkey's newest and largest camp, with a capacity of 60,000 people. In the 3 weeks since it opened, 5,500 people have already moved in.
Scott, you visited refugee camps in both Turkey and Iraq. How are people holding up?
It's very difficult because of the winter weather. It's cold and rainy, sometimes snowing, and so it's very difficult. I would say the refugees in Turkey are better supplied. Some of them have heaters that have been furnished by the government or the aid agencies. The food is a bit better. In Iraq, it's still not too bad, although it varies from camp to camp, frankly. And the influx just in the last 6 to 7 months of the Yazidis and other groups following the ISIS or Islamic State offensive.
Arzam Ghassan Khalef is one of the newest residents. She and her 23-year-old daughter Asima were among 200 Yazidis released unexpectedly by the militants. She says that Asima was traumatized after being shot and beaten over the head with cement bricks.
She always talks to herself and nobody can understand. I wish someone could take her to another country for treatment. I'm tired.
When you're doing a story like this, of course, we are trained to be objective, but how can you not be emotionally affected?
It's very difficult, and actually often afterwards is when you try to compartmentalize and you just do your job, and your training helps, asking questions and trying to be sensitive and not, if you see them getting disturbed, you don't go any further, for example. But then you have to deal with it later, and this is why afterward you try to put it off until you're done with the assignment.
10-year-old Zainab is angry at the Islamic State, known here as Daesh, for driving her family and friends from their homes.
First we lost our school, then Daesh took our homes. They must be pushed back so we can go back to our houses.
In the shot that you took, the interview shot of the young girl, there's another little girl that you can see off in the corner, and she's just kind of looking curiously at what you're doing. Is that characteristic of how children and other refugees responded to you when you were there?
Again, it varies. Usually the children are more open. Of course, many of them are bored. They're not in school, so this is an entertainment for them, especially among the Syrian children. Even those who are not refugees that I encountered in Syria, they love the camera, and they love to be on camera, and they'll do the victory sign and chant and do whatever they can to be on the camera.
Now, there's a clear enemy here right now for many of these refugees, which is the Islamic State militants. What did they tell you about how they're feeling toward the group and the reasons for them having to leave their homes?
For the most part, intense anger, coupled with fear and anxiety for their missing loved ones.
My kids are still in their hands. 17 members of my family. We are all poor and helpless. We can do nothing.
When you talk to these refugees, what is their primary message to you? What is their hope that will happen to help get them out of this situation?
Often their hope is pinned on the international community. They feel that there should be more airstrikes against their enemies. They feel that ground troops of any kind is fine, anything to get rid of these invaders as they see it and allow them to go home.
We hope they will liberate our region, and our people will be freed from the hands of Islamic State.
This is the trauma of any victim, innocent civilian who's enveloped in a war, and it takes years sometimes for them to finally adjust to the new situation.